What was said yesterday on Meet the Press, not only in this interview but in the roundtable, really is shocking. It's shocking because it was so honest. And I'm not speaking to Dan Pfeiffer. Dan Pfeiffer, I believe, is delusional. And I say this, and I've said this of Jay Carney, but he is a paid liar. How could you say that, Crane? Well, I didn't say that. That was really what Robert Gibbs said. Yeah. That's what I'll get to it. Let's go first with what took place yesterday. And we begin with the promises of Obamacare to set this all up, what was promised and what has happened. Because this thing is failing and it continues to fail and they continue to modify it. It's not like other laws, as they say, but we'll get to that in a second. Here is just a little montage put together by townhall.com. Really great montage of what was promised and what has happened. Roll it.
No matter how we reform health care, we will keep this promise to the American people. If you like your doctor, you will be able to keep your doctor, period.
They're going to have to make some choices, and they might end up having to switch doctors. You've got to use this doctor as opposed to that one, or this hospital as opposed to that one. Now, you may find out that that network's more expensive than another network, and then you've got to make a choice in terms of what's right for your family.
If you like your health care plan, you will be able to keep your health care plan, period. No one will take it away, no matter what.
What we said was you could keep it if it hasn't changed since the law's passed.
We will lower your premium by $2,500 per family per year. Comprehensive health care reform so that we can do what I pledged to do as a candidate and save a typical family an average of $2,500 on their health care costs in the coming year.
And everybody will have lower rates.
Premiums are likely to go up, but go up at a smaller pace than what we've seen since 2010.
Okay, 7 million herself. That's Kathleen Sebelius. So 7 million. No, I didn't say that. Yeah, we have it on tape. You did say it. Okay. See, this is what bothers many of us. I believe it bothers you when somebody is lying to you, looking at you and lying. And when people try to cover for them by taking something, a little piece of something, and trying to spin it, trying to change it, trying to not make it about the issue. They do it like with things like with Lois Lerner, for example. She invoked her Fifth Amendment rights, but a D.C. law, because of an investigation that she was already testifying in and giving testimony to, that would have revoked her ability to do so. And so that would allow her to tell us what's going on. Because she already spoke to one part of the investigation. Then somebody says, well, you don't defend her constitutional rights. Actually, I do. She has the right to do these things. You know what I'd really like to know? The truth about what actually happened. And we're dealing with a situation where the government was used against people. These are the kinds of spins, the kind of changes. Anytime somebody looks at you and says, okay, Kathleen Sebelius, for example, she didn't say 7 million. Yes, she did. You prove it's 7 million. Well, these things are going to change. These things are going to take time. I mean, every law has changed. And you're sitting there going, wait a second, but I just said that she lied. That's the issue. The issue here is that she lied. Just like knowingly misled the American people, or was called out on something and then knowingly misled people or tried to mislead people, thinking we're a bunch of dumb monkeys out there going, oh, really? Really? Oh, you say that now. I don't know what happened 3 months ago. I don't have the ability to get what you said and put it back up. I actually do have that ability, and that's what's happening. And a lot of people don't care until they're actually impacted by it and getting hammered by it, like 90 million people. That would be the internal estimate, according to townhall.com, internal estimate from people who would lose their doctors. Change their plan. Yeah. They knew it. That's the frustrating part. So Dan Pfeiffer goes on Meet the Press yesterday, and he is being asked about a whole host of things. Some of President Obama, for example. Is he going to be a liability? Is he going to be, well, what's the story here? And so he's asked about that, and he's asked about Obamacare and what specifically is going to take place with Obamacare in the sense of the changes. Are we going to see any more changes? Now, he does speak to the election in Florida as well. Here is just a piece of what Dan Pfeiffer was asked about. So do we have cut 3? Hey, man, love it. And that would be actually what I'm looking for. And that would be Dan Pfeiffer talking about the Florida election, Florida 13, the one that the Republican who won was trashed by the establishment early on. And Alex Sink outspent, Democrat Alex Sink outspent him. Yeah, that one. Will this present a problem for the folks in the Democratic Party, and will we see a trend nationwide potentially through this? Roll it.
How much does Obamacare hurt Democrats?
Well, David, that's not true. The Republican position on Obamacare of repeal at all costs is opposed by a majority of Americans. It was not a factor in the Florida 13 election, but don't take my word for it. Jeff Guerin, who was the pollster in that race, who's the partner of NBC's own Peter Hart, said it was a negligible effect. Carl Rove, someone I don't agree with often.
Jeff Guerin, just since you brought him up, Jeff Guerin also told us, because we've looked at his comments, there's no question that Obamacare is a huge motivator for Republicans, and turning out the vote, which they did very effectively in Florida 13, much more so than Democrats, could become a national trend.
Well, Democrats have to do a better job of turning out midterms. We're very good at presidential years and less good at midterms. And if more Democrats don't turn out, we will not do well. That's incumbent of all of us, the president included, to get as many people to the polls in November as possible.
Okay. So basically you just called me out on what the guy actually said. And yeah, okay. Obamacare was a big issue. And the big lie that the left has told about the conservatives and Republicans, not always the same thing, is they don't have health care solutions. We've gone over those health care solutions and detailed them with extraordinary experts like Dr. Paul Howard, Ph.D., and Ovik Roy, both from the Manhattan Institute. Just FYI, if you want to go YouTube it, that's the way to get the solutions, because it's just something that's been said over and over again, thinking that we're just going to eat it up, not recognizing, oh, it tastes kind of funny. It smells kind of funny too. Let's keep moving. And we go to this. This is Dan Pfeiffer being asked about the changes to the Obamacare law. Understand, he makes a comparison with other changes, with other laws. They are not, they're apples and oranges. You're dealing with a mandate. You're dealing with approval from Congress, not opposition for repeal from Congress. So the president acting without the approval of Congress and Congress's consent. So he tries to make this false comparison about implementing the law, and then he says something about the Senate, about how the Democrats will hold the Senate. Roll it.
Look, what we're doing here is very consistent with how large pieces of legislation are implemented. This is how it's done with Medicare, how it was done with the prescription drug benefit passed under President Bush, is to find ways to implement it in a way that is best for everyone. If that includes giving people some additional transition time like we've done for businesses, then that's the right thing to do. And it's very consistent with how laws are implemented.
Final question about politics. Is the Senate in danger of falling to Republicans?
I believe we will keep the Senate. We have great candidates with experience winning in tough states, and we're on the right side of the issues.
Yeah, well, here's what Robert Gibbs said about Dan Pfeiffer's statement. He, in essence, called him a paid liar and admitted to being one. Former White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs. Roll it.
I think that's going to be the difference, because if he doesn't get, as I said, more involved in raising money, in getting voters excited, we know, as you said, that Obamacare is going to bring Republicans out. What issues can the president try to put on the table that get Democrats excited? But if he doesn't get more involved in, again, raising money and making this a choice, as Dan Pfeiffer said, you lose the Senate, and if you lose the Senate, turn out the lights because the party's over.
Is the Senate in danger?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How come Dan Pfeiffer didn't say that?
Because I did the same thing a few years ago on your show,
right.
And I still have tire tracks from Nancy Pelosi from
not being so happy
I thought
with you.
Yeah. Honesty, you can only go so far in Washington when you're employed. So as a consultant, I can say all these things now, but there's no doubt. I mean, and if you look at, they've got to pick up 6 seats, which is not a small number, but What gives them a huge advantage, obviously, is the states that they're in. As Israel mentioned, in Louisiana and in North Carolina, in Montana, places that the president didn't do well.
Okay. He, in essence, said, when you're paid by the White House to lie, you're a liar. You're going to lie, not tell the truth. Is that okay with you as an American? If that came from a Republican, if that came from a conservative, let's say, I would say also Christian, but I would say as a Christian, you're saying I'm out in front to not tell the truth about it. It's not congruous. It doesn't make sense. And as an American, I'm offended. Now, I'm not talking about I'm offended, I'm walking away. I'm offended, I'm engaged. I don't know what's going on in our political system, but you just had the former White House press secretary admit to being a paid liar. You're going to say this, even though you know it's not true. Oh, yeah. And I know these are political. That's always a great word to say. Oh, it's just political. They can do that spin. No. It's not political when you know 90 million people are going to lose or have to change their doctor. It's not political when you know the rates are going up for anywhere from 40 to 65% of Americans. It's not political when you promise they're going to be able to keep their own health care plan, but you know differently. That's not political. You can call it what you want. It's a lie about our health care, our ability that when we're sick, to be able to take care of ourselves by meeting somebody who knows something about that and treats us. Can't get more personal in the sense of the physical. And I can go the spiritual as well by going into our churches and organizations and saying that we have to purchase things that we do not want to purchase because it violates our beliefs, our values. We don't want to promote or have our money go toward the killing of a baby. So I bring you this to remind you that, one, there's an information war, and it's a big one. And the people who are defending whether the economic policies, I don't understand that. I don't speak central planning. I do the best I can with my shaped head and what God has given me and blessed me with. And it's the ability to say, hey, are you telling the truth? Here are your words, here are your actions, here's the record, and here's what you've said. And then you just heard Robert Gibbs admit it. Brain Durham's nothing but truth. A lot of mo on the flip side. AFR Talk.